Love album.
All right, so we're back on
Hey,
this busy day.
man, look, it's been crazy.
Appreciate
How's
it.
everything, King?
Everything is good. Everything is good. Man, we had a phenomenal show last week, and we're so glad to come back this week to bring you guys another phenomenal show. We had so much feedback. Oh man, it's overwhelming. The phones, man, when we got off air, the phones was ringing, the emails,
It was
everything.
buzzing.
Like everybody wants to be a part of it. They want to know what's up. They're sharing it. Friends and family is
Hmm.
on board. They're like, yo, this is something that they ain't never heard or even viewed
Right.
before or even in a long time. So just to hear those kind words, man, is definitely something so superb and heartwarming. And we appreciate everybody that has took the time out to say something, to acknowledge it, and just let us know what's going on and how much you liked it. And we appreciate that so much.
Indeed, indeed. You know, I got a lot of feedback also, man. Like, I mean, people
Mhm.
are really, really loving it. And, they people seem to be saying that what what's the kicker for them is that, like we said, like Bobby Drake so eloquently said in the last podcast, we don't come across as podcast niggas, so to speak. We out here really giving people some content, something they could take home with them, and really being those guys that are thinking and giving thoughtful responses and analysis to what's going on out here. So that was a beautiful thing. I like the fact that people are seeing, that this is not just your cookie cutter run of the mills podcast, where we just say stuff for likes and clicks. It really ain't like that. At the end of the day, we're here to what does it go to build and inspire? What was the other one? Inform, build, and inspire.
Informed.
That's
Yes,
what it is.
exactly.
You see, I got that on my man mug, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Like shout out to Aunt Malk for the man mug. We in the building out here, so that's what's up, man.
Definitely,
You know,
definitely, definitely.
much
Um,
more merchandise to
yeah,
come.
man. So we definitely have a great show for you guys tonight. And as you guys know, the theme of tonight is rule of engagement. And the reason why I titled it Rule of Engagement is because Major has a major announcement, which
Yo,
isn't pretty much an announcement to the people that know him. But, my man Major, salute to him, found his
yeah,
queen, got engaged, and next week he's about to walk down the aisle. So, y'all give it
that's what
up
it
for Major,
is.
man, doing this thing, man. I appreciate you so much, man.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you for that. Listen, man, I'm I'm so happy to be in this space. At the end of the day, it was a very long and hard fought dating experience to get to this space and to find this beautiful queen. But I'm here and I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't imagine it happening any other way with any other person. You know what I'm saying? Like she's really phenomenal and we're phenomenal together, so I want to go out of my way to, yes, make that announcement. Yes, I am getting married next week, and to the love of my life, and she's a wonderful young woman, and I like to say that you know we should be doing more of this as a people. I want to see more Black folks getting married. I want to see not only getting married, but getting happily married to the right person that you have chemistry with, that it makes sense with, that a person that gets you, a person that's got your back no matter what. When you find that person, you can't play with it, man. You got to go hard. Go hard or go home. A lot of people out here wasting each other's time, and that ain't it. There's all types of studies that show, what's going on, B Diddy, Bobby Drake in the building. What's happening, brother?
Salute,
All right, all
salute.
right. I was just talking about,
Tardiness.
okay, no, it's all good, man. Now I was just talking about marriage and kind of promoting it and talking about how, as a people, this is something that we need to be doing. There are studies and studies and studies that show that when people marry, it reduces their chance their chances to be in a state of poverty, because you have two people that are working together, for the good of the family. It also reduces, from what I understand from reading, also reduces teen pregnancies. It also reduces, just the likelihood of youths getting into trouble because they have that male and female balance in the home, and so forth and so on. So, this is something I notice a lot of people are anti-marriage, both male and female. And I have a very difficult time figuring that out. I understand that some people get married for all the wrong reasons, and sometimes marriage can get hectic, but at the end of the day, it's a very beautiful thing. And I think that we should be promoting that more as a people. I really, really feel that.
Absolutely.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
It's funny you should mention that. A friend of mine on Facebook, she actually just posted earlier today that
Hmm.
she's been tracing her family lineage, her family history, and she's a foundational Black American, so she's been trying to trace back her family records. And she said so far she's been able to go back as far as 1881.
Mm.
And she said, funny enough, the only reason that she was even able to get back that far is because she was able to trace her family history using, wait for it, the marital records.
Other records. How about that? How about that?
Now,
It's heavy.
if great great grandma, great great grandpa was just shacking up and just on some whole, we don't need any piece of paper to prove our love for each other, what have you. We can just be
Right.
together, committed. Okay, cool, but family tree cut short right there. Everything else is just guesswork. But here we actually have a concrete record that says this was a thing, this was an institution, this was a family, and just based off of that, countless decades later, it was a benefit and a blessing to their descendant. Something that I'm sure they didn't even take into consideration. They weren't even thinking about that, but just from handling things above board in that straightforward way, it created benefits and blessings for those to come.
That's
There's no getting around it.
no
Yeah,
doubt. That's beautiful,
definitely,
man. That's beautiful. And
definitely.
it's serious out here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love the fact that people will sit back and say, well, we don't solidify on a level of we have 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years of marriage under our belt, right?
Hmm.
I'm not married. Bobby Drake's not married. He's not engaged to anyone. I'm not engaged to anyone.
Hmm.
And then you have Major, who's engaged on his way to being married within a week. So what's so surreal about the people that's on the show and what we bring to the table is we're showing you progression. We're not showing you from one side of the hill and you didn't see us on the other side of the hill. A lot of times people will sit back and say, "Oh, because you don't have the titles that you can't talk about certain things," and that a lot of times that's false, right? Because
Right.
you have people that are in marriages and have been in marriages and haven't been happy, or they're in marriages that they should have never gotten in the first place. So a lot of times they project the happiness, they project stuff out there to make it seem like it's peaches and cream when it's really not. So everything you're looking at, you're taking for face value, and then when it crashes, then you're looking at it like, oh man, why I followed you? You were married for so long. I thought you had it together. Yeah,
Hmm.
because nobody's being transparent enough to go through the stages, to go through the journey. You're going through the journey here. So you're going to see us go from single to engaged to married. That's
No
the
doubt.
goal. You know what I'm saying? So if one of the brothers go and take flight, we encourage that because the other brothers want to get on the same path. Everybody's pathway is designed different. So I don't watch anybody and say, oh, they got married before me. I got to run and hurry up and get married. No, my thing is when that time comes, then that's my time. You know what I'm saying? When
Mhm.
Bobby time comes, that's his time. Right now, it's Major's time, right? So Major is taking that major leap and investing in himself, his family, his future, and we love it. We love to see that because it goes back to the early 1900s all the way down before the 1960s where we had a solidified foundation. That's why we didn't have the issues that we have now. And remember, our ancestors were dealing with that and their marriage through one of the toughest times that I think you could have been living through, which was the Jim Crow era,
Real
right? So
talk.
this is straight out white supremacy, no justice, no nothing. You've
Hmm.
seen Emmett Till get killed in that process. All these other black people been harmed in that process, and they were able to come through that hardship through the solid foundation of their community, the code of conduct, and the solid family structure, as well as the community structure, because everybody saw themselves as family members. We protect each other. And that's how they fought back on systematical racism, white supremacy through those years because they had that solidified foundation. Now we
Yes.
don't have that foundation. Everything is pretty much declining with the marriages, the codification, the unity that we have. Everything is declining, and this is why we're having so much problems right now. And the dominant society is pretty much going buck ham because there's no solidification within us. There's no wall structure to push back against the forces. So
Right.
we have to build that back. We have to, you know, revamp everything back to its original state. And that's what we're doing. We're doing it brick by brick, piece by piece, village by village. And we'll construct back that solidified foundation that we once had, because people don't understand on a financial point.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Black Wall Street was the most successful financially neighborhood community ever, even to this day. People don't
Mm-hmm.
understand the money that generated out of that community is still nobody in their community topping it. Whether you look at any other race of people, nobody, as wealthy as they might be, nobody topped the gross amount of money that we got when it came back to Black Wall Street. So we want to get back to that. We have all the tools to get back to that, the knowledge, and we also understand that our people, they didn't give us really the solutions, but they gave us a base model blueprint that we could work with to even be better than what they are. And we have to take it serious to get back to that side. So in order for us to do that, we have to revamp the structure of the household again. And you're doing it by, you know, being a man, which we're having general conversations of getting our brothers back on that mindset to build that village back, to build that solidified foundation back. So definitely when we see our brothers doing it, we congratulate them because they're on the path to building back that success that we once had.
No doubt, no doubt. And
Uh,
our brother Lowell says in the chat, marriage is what builds communities. Communities build a society. There is no true society or community without the foundation of marriage, and I absolutely agree with that.
Correct.
culture.
Yeah, these, you know, I get a lot of pushback. Camila says marriage is a beautiful thing. Yes, you know, and they're congratulating me as well. I really appreciate that, team.
Yeah,
You
and
know, I get a lot.
that's coming from uh, a queen with her king, like she said last week, you know, in a strong, solidified marriage. So you're having blessings from somebody that's already on that journey, on that path, been solidified in that lane and foundation. So you know, it's great. You know, other married people would love to see people get married and join that group, because when you elevate yourself from single life, engaged life to marriage life, you find yourself in different groups and different realms of people.
Right.
Like you always hear people that say they're married, they don't hang with single people, because what
Correct.
single people do and their mindset is way different than what married people do. So when you know you
It is.
get into that group, now you're in the group with married people and they're like, yes, now we can solidify, we build together, our husbands sit back and manifest and network, and now we have a united uh, resource from two different households. You know what I'm saying? So it's great to see other people that's in that realm, in that lane, showing much love. So we appreciate that, Miller.
No doubt. Like I'm saying, like this is the thing that's crazy is the other side of it, right? Because we're putting it out there, we're promoting it, we going hard on it. And what's funny to me is that you have a whole other group, a whole other contingency where it just seems like their purpose in life is to bash marriage. And it's like I'm standing back looking at these people like they got three heads. You know what I'm saying? It's counterproductive to everything. You know what I mean? And it's antithetical to having you know, a healthy life and a healthy involvement. You know, people are not designed, I believe, people are not designed to be alone. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't believe that at all. You know what I mean? And it's unnatural, I think, for a lot of these people. You know, you some people they bang on marriage so hard, and I think it's sour grapes, some of it, you know, where they constantly get into relationship situations that don't work. And it's like, oh, the hell with this. I'm going to just do me. I'm going to be a player for life. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of the guys say. And a lot of women be like on some, I don't need no man type of stuff. And it's like, bruh, if we didn't need each other, we wouldn't all be here. You know what I mean? On a very simplistic level. If we didn't need each other, we wouldn't all be here. You need that masculine and feminine balance. You need both energies, you know, and your kids need to understand, you know, what a woman being treated well looks like. what a man being treated well looks like from the opposite gender. You know what I'm saying? It's imperative. You know, your kids need to feel that energy. You know, my mom says all the time, you know, when a man says something to a child versus when a woman says something to a child, you know, a woman could tell him something all day. The man said one time, and you know, he's chill. It's different. You know, you have that structure, that disciplinarian that's there in the home, and then you have the nurturer that, you know, it's two totally different energies. So for people to say that it's not important that you have that in and of itself is unnatural. You know what I'm saying? And people that are out here that just bang on marriage, like, you know, basically a dude is going to mistreat you anyway. You know, you can't trust none of these hoes. It's like, what kind of low energy BS are we on? Some of us are really on that. I see it constantly, daily, almost hourly online. You know, people talking about specifically towards sisters. You know, people like to bang on married women. They call them pick-me's. They call them slaves. You know, what's that about? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see anything productive or fruitful coming out of that. And that actually, us speaking on this particular topic, actually is a good segue into one of the things that we were talking about earlier in the week that had to do with marriage. Do we want to talk about the $15,000 wedding? We ready for
we
that?
we're not going to go into that right now because I want to
Okay,
save that towards the end. Um,
we'll come back to
Towards
it.
everything else that we're doing as far as marriage related topics. But I
No
know
doubt.
that you wanted to point out some extra things outside of that realm. So we'll definitely pivot off to that. I know you had a particular issue with an African brother of ours, and I say it as ours because he's in our community. He's
Right?
perceived in our community and has been reigned a hero in our community
Yeah.
because this brother had went out of his way to go and put up some light system in Africa with the help of some predatory lenders of China. But at the time, we thought it was a great idea. And then everything started going downhill for this
Right.
brother. And I definitely want to bring up and show everybody who we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Major, you um, wanted to discuss about this individual because you had some gripes about what he said in the interview related to uh, pretty much the marriage household and how he wanted to state his opinion as if it was facts and it was solidified in the black culture. And
Right.
so I'll let you go ahead and talk about Akon and what ridiculous statements that he said that we need to address and um, basically correct it in the correct narrative.
Right. Yeah. Akon said something real sideways in the interview that he was in that just grinds my gears, right? You dig? This dude, you know, I like Akon, so I hate to have to, you know, go there on him, but my man said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing here. He said that basically, because he was talking about the topic was Nick Cannon and all the kids that he has, and you know how, you know, he's not able to properly be in their lives, at least that's the way that the host positioned it, and I agree with that. And Nick Cannon has said himself that he's not able to be there for some of his children like he'd like to be. Akon comes from left field and he's like, oh yeah, that's the way it should be, you know, basically saying, you know, we just need to provide monetary support for this kid, and we shouldn't have to be there for like their recitals or for their games, or you know, just to spend time with them generally. Basically that's the mother's job to do, as long as you papering her up and you papering the kid up. And it's like, bruh, that was the most bullshit ass statement I've heard in a long time about how fathers are supposed to be with their children. And he, to add to that, you know, it's bad enough he made that statement. To add to that, he's like, oh, yeah, you know, spending all that time going to recitals and to the games, that's a white man. That's a white man thing. That's what he said. That's what he said, bro. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Like that's a white man thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of mentality, and it was people agreeing with him. And I'm like, dude, you're missing the whole point of or at least one of the points, one of the key tenets of fatherhood. You know, as I just said, you know, that fatherly energy is supposed to be there. You know, that masculine energy is supposed to be there, especially with a little boy, but also with a little girl. You know what I mean? Like she's going to know, she's going to have a concept of how to deal with men and so forth from seeing how her father interacts with her mother, how her father interacts with her. If you're just not, you're just breaking off paper, you're not you're not showing her that. You're not showing him that. You're not giving the mother what she needs because you know she needs that balance in the household as well. So I mean, it was just way off, you know, and to say that that's a white man thing. Okay, so we're saying that white men are better than we are as fathers, basically is what he's saying. You know, what part of manhood is being absent from your child's activities? What part of manhood is that? It
Exactly.
was a it was
And
it was an outrageous exchange. It was an outrageous statement. And yeah, we don't need to be moving like that out here, brothers. If that's what y'all doing, I'm gonna tell you flat out. That's
yeah,
the reason why you have a lot of your. It's why a lot of your children are messed up. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Really, I mentored younger children at one time. You know this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most of the kids, they'll tell you, "Oh, my father wasn't there. My father didn't, interact with me." Blah blah blah. They'll tell you that, and I've seen this up close and personal. It's real, man. Go
Mm.
ahead.
Yeah. So everybody go ahead and hit the like button real quick. 'Cause I'm about to say something real, real important to you. So hit the like button, get it in algorithm, to get it out there because everybody needs to hear this. Um, there is a myth that we need to throw out of the Black community. And in order for you to throw this myth out, you have to take yourself out of the equation and put it on a statistical level, right? So when you do that, you keep in mind that this has nothing to do with you personally. This has everything to do with us globally. And that myth is Black men, I'm going to say it again, Black men rank number one out of all races of men. White men that you guys like to highlight a lot and idolize a lot, they rank better than white men. And white men came in third. They ain't even come in second. Hispanic, Asian, Arabs, we rank number one. Inside and outside the household. This isn't inside as far as marriage. This is guys that have their own thing going on, but still know they have children and are there for their children. So
Real
when
talk.
you have Akon that sits back and says something ignorant, that's not a Black man thing. He is wrong. It's always been in our culture to be there for our children. The problem is that we have a system that is put in place to disrupt the greatness that we have. Remember, it was the togetherness that I talked about from the Black Wall Street. And everybody, when I talk about Black Wall Street, I'm not talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's not the only Black Wall Street we had. We had
Mhm.
Tulsa, Atlanta, New Jersey,
Rosewood.
Detroit. We
Mhm.
had Rosewood. We had Black
Overtime.
Wall Streets all over. And
Big
guess
deal.
what? I didn't even name the biggest Black Wall Street that nobody talks about. We
Mm.
only talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma because of the race riots. Did
Right.
you know that Durham, North Carolina,
Huge.
was the biggest of all the Black Wall Streets we had?
It
Why
sure was.
was Durham, North Carolina, the biggest Black Wall Street? Because Durham, North Carolina was the hub. It was the China of Black
Mhm.
people. And when
Mm-hmm.
I say the China of black people, when you are out here being a productive entrepreneur, you get your supplies from China. Black people could not go out to white neighborhoods and white stores and get what they wanted. We were living in Jim Crow. They didn't want us in the stores. They didn't want us in our neighborhoods. They didn't want it, period.
Right.
So we had to find and create our own, and we did it. And Durham, North Carolina was the hub of everything that you needed, from nuts, tools, bolts, wood, whatever it was. They had
Mm-hmm.
over 100 different outlets.
Yeah.
This wasn't stores. These
What's the
was
plug?
businesses. These was
Right.
corporations.
Mm-hmm.
So when you had Tulsa, Oklahoma, that you signify as over 100 businesses,
Mm-hmm.
they had over 100 corporations. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Nikes, the Chanels, and all. That was the hub for black people in Durham, North Carolina.
Real
So when
talk.
you talk about history, this is why it's so important for black people to understand history. One of the major reasons why I don't support CRT in public schools. I
Mm-hmm.
know white folks don't want you to have CRT in public schools, but I don't want you to have CRT in public schools, because critical race theory, it doesn't say critical race fact. Theory is a mixed combination between facts and hypothesis. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically saying which how white supremacy runs. It's whatever the white man says so. So whatever he writes in that book of the story, that's the story he's feeding your children. We
Yeah.
don't need that to be brainwashed in our children at home. You, as adults, are supposed to go out here and get the right information, read the books, and give the information to your children so
Right.
they are solidified, they are protected with the knowledge, the correct knowledge, and not programmed with other knowledge that is disingenuous, and it's a slap in our face to our ancestors.
Real talk.
So you have to understand black history. You have to understand the history of the ancestors. And once you understand that from your own people and get the true history, it brings a sort of empowerment that comes within you and in your children. And that's how you get tangible wins, and not the symbolic bullcrap that we've been sitting back settling for years and years and years. We're getting crumbs and not going out there taking the whole loaf like we're supposed to do. So it's very important for you to go out there and understand the history and give it and instill it in your children. The
Yeah.
household is the most powerful space that you can have. You got
Right.
to understand, once you close that door, you close out white supremacy, you close out the programming, everything inside your fort, your house. That's where you solidify everything. That's where you mold the minds of everybody in your household. So when
Right.
they walk out the door, no matter what they get hit with, they're not getting hit with anything that would knock them on their feet, because you have solidified and made them strong enough to withstand anything that's outside of that door.
Agreed. Agreed.
Ultra fact.
I want to just add one thing in there too, about the critical race theory. I agree that actual critical race theory, is a problem being taught in schools. You know what I mean? But I also want to throw in there that, these racist white people are using the term critical race theory to ban real black history from being taught. They call real black history, critical race theory. They're calling it that. And they're using that as an excuse to ban black history as well. So that's also going on. Bob, what you got, man? Talk to us. What's good?
No, that's just you have to understand. It was Neely Fuller Jr. who said several years ago during the upheaval in Charlottesville, he was peeping the situation, and then he realized, based on the talking points and the information, disinformation of being passed around on different levels, he came to a conclusion. He said he realized that white supremacy will always take, and he said both, but I'm going to expand on it. White supremacy will always take all sides of any argument, of any position, and that's how they're always able to maintain power. So That's why we have to understand the whole concept, especially in politics, of there not being any political party that's for us. The Republicans aren't for us, but the Democrats aren't for us either. And we should have no alliance to any political party. We only have alliance to what is in our own best interest. So you will have white supremacists who will sit up and say, we don't need to be teaching critical race theory in schools. We don't need to be teaching that garbage to our children. But then you'll have so called supporters and allies who are also white supremacists coming up and saying, well, look at what these evil people are doing over there. We need to teach critical race theory in our schools. We need to make sure that everyone is educated about this. But the whole time they keep on passing out that this is a theory. There's no Holocaust theory. No
Right.
one is the. There's no theory that suggests that what happened over in Germany, the Nazis. No one's saying that the campaign of Adolf Hitler was a theory. No one's saying that these people who were gashed in these chambers was a theory. We understand that these are actual facts. All these other tragedies, the internment camps in Manzanar and other places where the Japanese were interned during World War II out of fear that they might secretly be the ops working for Japan against the United States when they were hemmed up. No one said that this was a theory, but yet when we're talking about the mistreatment of black people, we're talking about chattel slavery. We're talking about Jim Crow semi-slavery. We're talking about redlining. We're talking about all these horrors committed against us. This is a theory. No, this is fact. If anything, it's critical race law. It's a scientific law. This did happen. This is factual. You calling it a theory is not going to make it go away. And anybody pushing and advocating for this, they're working for the ops. So absolutely, we don't need to. I'm not a fan of the idea of that being pushed and taught in schools and presented to us. Um, and especially those of us who have children, we need to make it our business every time we send our children out to school, out in the world. As soon as they come home, we're debriefing them. We're treating them like they're behind enemy lines. What is it that you learned? And listen intently to everything that they're hearing. And as
Mhm.
you go through this with these kids, they're going to start learning on what to pick up on, what information to relay, what information to be mindful of. And as soon as we hear something that's misinformation,
Check it
kill it right
at
in
the
the
door.
crib. Don't let them go to sleep on that nonsense. Put out their head right away. Replace it with legitimate factual information, and that's how you condition their brains. That's how you brainwash them. You literally are washing that garbage out of their heads, and then you're
Hmm.
making sure that you're placing it with actual factual knowledge. So when they go out there, they're hearing these teachers and these educators and these adults spitting nonsense, and while the rest of their peers are sitting there game goofy, they're right there like, yeah, 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 blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
know how our kids are. When our kids stand for something, they do an amazing job of it. They're not going to sit there and let you talk stupid and goofy to them. They understand. My mama told me that's not true. My daddy told me that's not true.
Hmm.
Exactly.
And
What's
we're
And
up?
they
getting tired
call
of
them out.
operating behind enemy lines.
Exactly. And that's when our children call them out. And we see it numerous times in the media that our children get into trouble for calling out these teachers on their BS
Mhm.
teachings
Right.
and
Right.
ideology and programming. And you guys got to understand, and this is why I try to tell people, and Neely Fuller always say, if you don't understand systemic racism or how white supremacy operate, everything you think you know will only confuse you. And one
Mhm.
of the tactics that they like to use a lot is the tactic that they use on children. And you notice they always call black people boy or girl, whether you're adult or not, right? And
Right.
there's a reason for that. They try to talk to us and treat us like children. And when you have a child, what's the first thing that you do when your child doesn't want to eat food, right? Your child
Mhm.
doesn't want to eat food. You got a infant child that doesn't want to eat food. So you're force feeding your child, and your child does not want to eat the food. What do? You take the food and you act like you're eating it. And then when your child sees that you're eating it, your child goes and grabs your hand and they want the food now. They don't want you to eat it, they want to eat it. And it's the
Right.
same thing that they use on black people. So they'll sit back and put out something called critical race theory. Then they'll sit back and have a campaign to go against it. And then everybody gets mad and they get mad and like, oh, they don't want to put it in the schools. And you're fighting for it. You're a black person fighting for it to be put in the schools, and they're doing the reverse. They want to put it in the school, but they
Right.
want you to fight against it and fight for it. So when you put it in the school, you cannot now go back against it because you fought for it. You
Right.
fought hard for it. You gave up a lot of resources to get that in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up being detrimental for your children and yourself in the long run. You got to watch those tactics. So when
Right.
I see
Control the
things like
opposition.
that, I don't co-sign that. You know why I don't co-sign stuff like that? Because every other race of people have their own set of schools outside of the American set of schools. The Asians have their own schools. The Jewish community have their own schools. Hispanics have their own schools. Arabs have their own schools. They're all set aside outside of the public realm, right? So when they have their children being raised and taught in their own schools to a certain age, now they get drifted into the public schools. You can't raise a Jewish kid up in a public school because the Jewish community knows those public schools aren't there to raise them in a productive and in a financial manner. They're there to dumb them down and put them in a slave-like manner. So what
Mm-hmm.
they do is they get them in their critical stages. The critical stages is from when they're born to about 13. That is the critical stage of a mind frame to mold and put into the best form you can put it in. And they are not going to subject their children into the school system at that young age. So what they do is they put them in their school system, teach them things that they would not be learned in public school system. So by the time they're 13 and age into and blended into the school system, they
Mm-hmm.
already set in their ways. They already know mentally is concrete. So you can't brainwash them with the bull crap because they already been programmed with the right material and the right things from the get-go. And that's what we
Correct.
don't understand is because we don't have those schools out there. So we
Mm-hmm.
have people out here trying to build schools because they understand that in order for you to get to where you need to be dominant as a race, you have to teach your own people before it gets to that level.
Yeah. All that. All
And
of
that's
that.
what people don't understand.
You said it very eloquently. I
So
mean,
That's what education is about, indoctrination. But the question is, what are you indoctrinating whoever the student is? You're going to be giving them information to make them into the image that you need them to be in. People talk about all the time about how they complain about how when you look at the public education system, there's so many holes and flaws. They don't teach things like taxes. They don't teach things on money management and other essential life skills, things that can make a huge difference. You
right.
go to these schools, they're teaching you how to be a contributor to the society. And that's
mm,
fine if you're part of the dominant society, but what happens if you're not part of the dominant society? What happens if the way they want you to be a contributor goes against what is in your best interest?
Right.
mm,
You see, you got to make sure that what you're learning, what you're teaching your kids, is going to be a benefit to them. Don't send them out to be a benefit to everybody else but them. That's foolishness.
mm.
And that's
You're going to
exactly
collapse
what
under
we're
all
doing.
that. So we got to definitely
Mhm.
make sure that we're having our children taught and indoctrinated with things that are going to be in their best interest, that's going to serve their community, their people, their families, and themselves. And it's going to put them ahead of the game, and it's not going to have them in an inferior state towards their peers because their peers are coming out the gate competitive. They're doing big things. They're taking over. They're out there establishing and doing great things and great deeds. And too often we find our kids left behind. They have to wait till they're adults to get essentially a second education and learn things that they should have known way before they even touched adulthood. So we got to
Exactly.
get to a point where we stop setting our children up to having to be play catch up all the time. Our kids are
Exactly.
supposed to be ahead of the pack, and because we see that when the playing field is leveled, when everything else is equal, when there's no barriers to education, there's no barriers to advancement, we see that our kids, far more often than not, were miles ahead of everybody else. So we got to make
Exactly.
sure we keep them in that place where they're able to be competitive. We owe it to them first and foremost because they didn't ask to come here, and by doing it for them,
Exactly.
we ultimately end up doing it for ourselves.
Definitely.
Good talk.
So, we're definitely going to switch over to the next topic. Um, but I do want people to understand this before we switch to the next topic, and that is that You have to understand that when you are out here trying to build a community, it is very imperative for everybody to know what the program and the agendas are. And we have to be in unison to fight against it. Because if half of us don't know and the other half does know, it's going to be counterproductive because now we have 50% of the people fighting one way and 50% fighting another way and not 100% fighting the same way. And this is why we don't get things done because we have people that aren't educated enough to understand things. And then we have people that are, and they are the ones that are fighting with each other and not fighting against who we need to fight to get the correct changes going. So I definitely wanted to say that. And we're definitely going to get into this next topic where I know my boy Major had another situation with this person. I had a situation with this person. I'm pretty sure Bobby Drake had a situation with this person. I never liked this person from a get go. I always thought this person was a suspected racist, always have thought about him as a suspected racist. And a lot of people don't understand that um, they will put suspected racists around black people and blend them off as just somebody that is passionate about what they do. And that's not really the case. What they do is they hide a lot of these suspected racists around black people. So when they're talking about topics, even though it might seem like something that is just a heated debate, a lot of times it's just a slight at people and black people at that. And it's an easy way to take a shot. And it's an easy way to get away with displaying racism without the dominant society, well, I don't want to say dominant society, but the population of society recognizing what's going on. And when that happens, we cause a lot of confusion and you have a lot of bickering between people that understand what's going on versus people who's taking it just for a form of entertainment. So this person that I'm about to bring up is no more than Skip Bayless. So
Yep.
Skip
Oh
Bayless,
man. Oh.
Skip Bayless had said some really disingenuous things 2 weeks in a row. I know Skip had said the week prior he had talked about got into a heated discussion with Shannon Sharp, and when he got in a heated discussion with Shannon Sharp, he took a low blow.
Mhm.
They were talking about Brady, and Skip Bayless has this infatuation, this fixation, this godlike complex with Tom Brady, and a lot of people do. And Shannon, who is a player, and I always advocate players to be sports reporters and journalists when they're talking about players because they've been there, they understand it, instead of somebody who was a failed athlete who really didn't play any games in high school and then comes out here and is looked at as a guru and better than a lot of these athletes when in return he's not, and a lot of them are not. Stephen A. as well. Um, and these people get the power to demonize other people, and it's a shame because the people that really have the knowledge and really understand what's going on don't get highlighted or get promoted in that field. So he had some disparaging things to say about Shannon in that heated debate, and he said, "Well, you're not him, and you'll never be close to him." And in other words, saying that you're trash compared to Brady. And Shannon is trying to explain to him like, "Hey, I got Super Bowl rings too, and I've been in X amount of Pro Bowls, so I'm not no trash player as well." But just the simple fact that you can discard a person's accomplishments because they pointed out the fact that Brady hasn't been playing on top of his level, and you talk about, oh, I got offended because you talked about Brady. That's a big problem. And
Right.
I was already written off with Skip Bayless from then. And then the
Mm.
following week, shortly after that, he goes and he's on his Twitter, and our wonderful brother Damar Hamlin got into a collision on the football field, and his heart had stopped for a moment. And it was one of the
Mhm.
scariest moments that a lot of people have witnessed in football. and the whole world came together to send prayers and hoping this man was okay. And during that time, Skip Bayless had the nerve to come out and say, well, in other words, he wrote a bunch of tweets, but one tweet in particular, he said, oh, well, this game should, they should be going on. They shouldn't really pause for anything like in that manner. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the way it came off. And Terrell Owens got on him. Um, I think the Dallas Cowboy receiver, um, Michael Irvin had got on him, and countless amount of people had got and ripped on Skip Bayless for that tweet because it was
Mm-hmm.
very insensitive. And that tweet, to me and everybody who understood it, was basically a code word for basically saying, listen, you're just a plantation buck. Get up, get him off the field, and get this game rolling again.
Real
That's
talk.
how that's how it came off. Because we already know that football and all these sports are basically gladiator arenas and plantation fields for highlighting our people to go out there and damage their body for the riches of dominant white society, aka white racists and suspected racists plantation owners that they call football owners or basketball owners. So that's why a lot of people felt very offended because it came off as that, and we already know the undertone that comes with black people and sports related back to slavery. So
Yeah.
I definitely want to take this time and hand it over to Major and uh, get his expressions on it because I know this is something he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no nice way to discuss this, man. Like, Skip Bayless spoke like a true Nazi, straight up and down. Like, I mean, get that nigga off the field and put another one out there. Basically, is where he was going with it. You know what I'm saying? That's how it came off. Like he was so insensitive. It was just all about the sport, which of course, they worship money. You know what I mean? It's all about
Yeah,
the sport and the money. And okay, well, this game is so important. No regard for this man's life. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think people are sick of Skip Bayless expressing this type of anti-black racism, because
mm,
at the end of the day, had Tom Brady's heart stopped on the field, would he have had that same commentary? You know,
yeah,
I mean, you see how he worships Tom Brady. He got this whole homoerotic thing for Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? It is like on top of that,
exactly.
you know,
Skip would
Skip,
have hijacked the ambulance himself and rode
you
that
dig?
bitch straight
He would have
through
went out to the field
the tick.
himself.
Man, look,
You dig? So
would have
come
been a
on, like
one
Skip.
man paramedic crew. He'd been doing the compressions. He'd been doing the
Yeah. Oh, he would have loved to give him mouth to
the
mouth.
cardiac pulmonary shots and everything. He'd been doing all that by his damn self. He was gonna have a whole episode of ER
You
right
dig?
there on the field.
He would have knocked
Yeah,
the paramedic out the way to give him mouth to mouth himself. You dig? So
Uh,
stop the stop the bullshit, Skip. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, this young man's life. I've never seen nothing like that in football, and I've been watching football since I was about 4 or 5 years old. All my life, really, I've been watching football. I've never seen nothing like that. So that should tell you, dumbass, this is not your run of the mills injury. This is
mm,
something extra. The man's heart literally stopped there on the field. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's not like back in the day. If this would have happened in the 70s or the 80s, okay, it's going on the field and it's just kind of contained. It's kind of somewhat contained. Now we got social media. It's worldwide in 5 minutes, man. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You can't just go with the flow, even if you wanted to. You understand where
yeah,
I'm coming from? So,
yeah,
bruh, you gotta be really, really, the NFL has to be careful about how they handle things, how the optics of things look, in addition to the fact that, okay, there's this young man's life. It's extraordinarily important, but also from the perspective of the organization, you got to get this right, and you got to get this right in real time. And so they made the
mm,
right decision. Hey man, we just got to cut this game. This is unprecedented. You understand? And you move, along those lines, and those players weren't even going back out there to play. They straight up said they wasn't going to play. You know what I mean? So, for this scrawny little jackass that's never put on pads, he's never played the sport. You understand what I'm saying? He wants to, put himself out there like some type of guru. You know what I mean? And he just has no idea, no frame of reference, you know, of where he's coming from and say something insensitive like that, man. You need to sit down and shut up, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why in the other episode, even before that, you spoke of the disrespect he gave to Shannon. Shannon took off his glasses. He looked like he wanted to slap the shit out of Skip. And I'm sure he did. I wanted to slap the shit out of Skip. You understand what I'm saying? Because what is the point of even saying, okay, Brady's so much better than you, or whatever he's making it a personal thing. And I sent some tweets to Shannon talking about this, and I'm like, bro, you got to understand when you attack Brady, this is a racist white man you're sitting in front of. Brady is the great white hope to him. He lives his life vicariously through Tom Brady.
Yes.
His little
Exactly.
scrawny punk ass can't go out there and do that. So Brady's his hero. He got the pom poms up for Brady harder than the cheerleaders on the sideline. So when you attack Tom Brady, in a subliminal sense, as far as he's concerned, you're attacking him and you're attacking other white men, saying that they're not as great as you, the big buff Negro sitting here. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is the psychology of what's going on in Skip Bayless' head. And Shannon, I don't know if he gets that or not, but that's kind of what was going on. This guy has a history of saying slick stuff about black athletes. And, we wouldn't know who the hell he was, real talk, if it wasn't for the black athletes sitting in front of him. Who the hell wants to watch Skip Bayless? Who is he? You understand? Like, he's a nobody. He's a nobody squared. You understand? Nobody cares about Skip Bayless if not for Shannon Sharp sitting there. And
Exactly.
the other black men that he, gives sports analysis on, those are the interesting people. He's just there. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So for him to,
They,
have this proximity to black athletes and to be who he is because of black athletes and not have any respect for black athletes is particularly disrespectful. It's a slap in the face. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We need to get Skip Bayless about the paint. I hope they cancel his show. I don't ever want to see him again. I can't stand the sight of him. But go
Yeah.
ahead,
I mean,
Rob.
I
he's
know.
got a lot of pull on that network, but it's been a lot of very important and very well known people calling for him to be fired. I was doing some digging and I saw there's a whole lot of big names, Hall of Famers, and not just in the NFL community. You had some Hall of Famers and some big time NBA athletes, and I think even some Major League Baseball stars as well. People across sports and athletics, period, livid with Skip Baseless and calling for him to be fired, terminated for that, not just willing to accept an apology, saying he needs to go. And like you said, he's got a track record of this nonsense.
He
Mhm.
Um,
does.
and the thing is to see the drastic contrast because, like you said, just a week before, now supposedly he's getting so indignant and so outraged about Shannon just even appearing to compare himself to Tom Brady. I mean, they both play the
Right.
sport of football. They both laced up cleats. They both performed on the field. I believe they've even gone up against each other as well before. At the same time, I mean, Tom's played for over 2 decades and that's not that doesn't eclipse or that's not without Shannon being out in the field. So I'm sure they've locked horns once or twice in the gridiron. So they are contemporaries, but just to
Right.
even put himself in a position to make a comparison, that's blasphemy. That's a no-no. You can't do that.
Nigga,
What are
you
you
ain't
doing?
great as
You're
that
out of your
white man.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
But now
Go ass down,
a
nigga. You
player
ain't great
gets
as that white
injured
man.
horrendously. All his other peers have seen this, and a lot of these guys have been playing football since they were peewees, so
Right.
they've seen injuries. They know what it looks like when someone gets a broken leg or someone collapses or whatever. So this isn't anything new. But for all these grown, hardened, seasoned athletes to be shook this bad off that, even if you never watched football before, that should tell you how serious and significant this is.
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the same night this happened, not even the following day, the same night this happened, you're all talking about how, wow, they're going to have to cancel this game and it's so important to the season. And then almost as a little, let me cover my ass just in case. But that almost doesn't seem very important now.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Nah.
Exactly.
What
There's
what
more
thing you got to come out? And Skip, you getting older now, and as people get older, you got to watch. You got to watch these old people, because the older you
yeah,
get, the harder it is to keep what's inside you in the wraps. And I guarantee you, as time goes on, you're going to see more and more gaffes coming out of Skip, and it's going to be a whole lot close to each other as well too. Because who you are got to come out. You got to be
right,
you. You
right.
can't be nobody else.
Exactly.
You
He
got to
can't
be
help
yourself.
himself.
And he doesn't
Exactly.
want to. If he's honest.
He said, "I'm not taking no tweet down."
I,
After that,
I
after
wouldn't
that
be
beat
surprised if
down,
somebody told him and forced him to go ahead and make that tweet. I'm pretty sure he's like, they don't like it, they don't like it, whatever. No, you gotta do this, man, for us.
yeah,
I'm positive somebody had to pull him aside and say, Skip, you gotta
you
fix this
looking
up,
like
bro.
you looking like a foaming at the mouth racist. Yeah,
And
You
that's
kneecapping us right now, man.
and that's what I didn't like about that's what I didn't like that a lot of people didn't catch on, and Shannon had pointed it out. He said, well, it had to been something serious for the bosses to sit back and wanted you to explain your tweet. And then this is how you know a suspected or a racist is the way they react to when you call them out.
right,
He said, he was like, no, my bosses didn't say that. And then he started looking off and was like, oh, like, damn, why don't they just give me a break? And
basically,
I had made a video showing that clip between him and Shannon. And then I said that Skip Bayless lied on TV. And I showed the clip between him and Shannon.
mm-hmm.
And Shannon called him out and was right about the bosses saying there had to been something serious because the bosses called to ask you to find out to explain your tweet.
Right,
And he said to Shannon, no, the bosses didn't do it, which was a
mm-hmm.
lie because I put up two different articles that Skip himself said he got the call from the bosses that wanted him to explain the tweet. The thing about it is, especially with racist individuals, they don't want to look bad or be called out by somebody else, especially those that don't look like them. You
Right,
don't have the right to call me out, but my boss does. So
mm-hmm.
you should not even point out this. And that's what he said. That's why he cut Shannon off and was like, oh, to my knowledge, it seemed to me that this wasn't going to be brought up.
Right,
And he felt offended by Shannon even bringing up his tweets. So
right,
it goes to show you that how the power structure protects those that operate in the same mind frame as them. So
mm-hmm.
Skip Bayless is no different from the mindset of the people who are the higher ups who run it. Because when you look at even, let's talk about the Dana White situation and
Mm.
how everybody in the higher ups on the ESPN platform or whatever sports platform that the higher ups are on, the ones that make the call to Skip Bayless and all the rest of the guys, especially Stephen A. When situations go down with white folks, it's always curated in a different narrative, a slap on the wrist type of
Mm-hmm.
way versus when somebody
Yep.
black does something. And you notice the white woman that was on there, she was a white woman who got into it. I don't remember her name, but she came out and defended Dana White for slapping his wife and the altercation that they had that weekend. And I find it very, uh, what you call, I find it very contradicting to her because she said when she was with LeVar Ball, when LeVar Ball had his little hot moment, she had asked LeVar Ball a question and he replied
Mhm.
in that question and she took it in a sexual manner. This man is married. He wasn't coming at you in no sexual manner. And she got LeVar Ball banned off of the show.
Right,
Now, here you have a man. Now, mind you, this is just a reply from your question that somebody said, and you felt offended and got him banned. You have a white man who beat his wife, and you're on national TV talking about, well, she should have kept her hands to herself,
right,
and things like that kind of happen, and Also, they were drinking and liquor was involved. So it becomes a whole bunch of explaining when it comes to the consequences of white folks. And when it's black folks, it's automatic consequence, no explaining, no ifs, ands, or buts. You should know better because guess what? Stephen A. Smith got online and he started explaining for Daniel White, saying that he was his friend, and they talked about it and this and that, and basically trying to shoo it or soften it down to not make it be as bad as it was. And when Ray Rice had did what he
Mm,
did,
mm,
and I'll give Stephen A. some kind of credit
mm.
because Stephen A. did kind of pointed out what happened, right? I think
Okay.
Stephen A. said something as in, well, she attacked him first, just like that was the reports on Dana White that his wife slapped him first. That's why he attacked her back. Ray Rice, he pointed out that, well, Ray Rice's wife approached him in an aggressive manner and hit him in the elevator first, and Ray Rice reacted. Now, when Stephen A said that, guess what happened? Another white
Mm.
woman that was on anchor, she's a news anchor that was on the set. She came out on air and said she felt offended by Stephen A's remarks. And guess what happened to Stephen A? Stephen
Mm.
A got
Mhm.
suspended a whole week from ESPN because of that.
Yep.
Right.
So it's crazy how when you say something, anything again in the favor of blacks, or even trying to explain something for blacks, you get demonized. But the minute that somebody white does it and you try to explain it, now it's okay, it's a green light. And it lets you see why over the years that we have been programmed to thinking and seeing that everything black is negative and everything white is positive. And not Malcolm X, but Muhammad Ali has a great interview from the 70s. If you guys look it up on YouTube, and he talks about that. He talks about how everything black is demonic and everything white is right. And it's true because that is the narrative and that is the illustration that throughout the years they have always projected on us and always programmed on us. This is why one of the best film writers and film directors, I think, of our time growing up. That's the Gen X versus the beginning of millennials, which was Robert Townsend. Robert Townsend came out with Hollywood Shuffle, which was a movie that depicted all the black exploitation and how
Mm-hmm.
bad it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So black exploitation has always kept us in a negative light because we don't run around here talking about jive, sucker, punky, you need to do this, and bitch, give me my money. And we don't talk like that.
Right.
But that was what the white producers pushed out there and pushed money behind to make us ignorant, to make us seem violent. And over the years, we have not, as black people, have been a unified front to sit back and push back against that narrative, against that agenda, because when we allow things like that and allow us to be seen in a negative light for so long, and we have been programmed in the minds of other people and other races. So now everybody, when we're watching films that's black exploitation or watching shows with black exploitation narratives, now we are the gangsters, the drug dealers. So we never seen in the doctor's life. We're never seen as the creator, somebody who's an inventor or anything like that, like Iron Man. You know what I'm saying? And his lead role and how he's seen as a great inventor, even though it's a superhero uh, flick, they still always put their people in the best light ever.
Of
They never
course.
put them in a demonic light that they always typecast us in these roles in these movies. And it becomes a big problem because now entertainment, for so long of being programmed with the image behind it, now leads to us being killed in the streets by other race of people. And when they do it, it is warranted, it is looked at as justified, and we don't get no justice. But the
Right.
minute a black person goes in and defends themselves from somebody crazy, especially those outside of our neighborhood, then we are automatically thrown in jail and have to prove our innocence, and instead of us granting the innocence for doing what we were doing, which was protecting ourselves from the villain and the bully and the intruder. And that's the sad reality. And until we start pushing movies and roles and images and promoting more positivity than we see negativity, we're going to continue to be in this negative dark cloud hovering over us, this negative limelight, and it's going to basically be the downfall and the extinction of our peoples, because after a while people are being programmed and desensitized to black lives being killed. And that's one of the reasons why you have which leads to the Skip Bayless tweets and so many other people that have outside of our race that have that mind frame of looking at a black life laying on the floor and saying, why don't they just scrape him up and move him to the side and continue to play football? Because
Real talk.
they don't look at black lives as being anything worth valuable on this earth. That's why they always say that an animal has more rights and more protection than black people. And that's the God honest truth, because we haven't pushed back against the system and the narrative and the imagery that's been projected on us for so long. Enough is enough. We need to move forward. And this is why we have conversations to get the correct and healthy narrative out there so that we can get our people from under the dark cloud for all these years.
Real talk, brother. Real talk. You said a word right there, man. Yeah, the illest thing there, that I take from that, man, is when you talk about how, because people don't make the correlation. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
people do not understand that one. That's why it's called programming, because you're
Yeah.
being programmed. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they think. I had a sister a couple months back say to me on a post something to the effect of, "Oh, it's just entertainment." We were talking about something deep like this, and it was a movie that came out, and it was just showing, black folks in a very negative light. I forget which movie it was, but I mean, there are plenty of them, right? And this is why, unfortunately, I don't support a lot of the black directors that the dominant society pushes. I really don't rock with their movies because, I mean, for some of these people out here, that are pushing some of these narratives and putting us in some of these lights, it might as well be a racist white person writing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a few of those guys out there, like your Jordan Peele's. Jordan Peele is extraordinarily thorough. He's a genius, in my opinion. You have people like you said, Robert Townsend and others. They're really, putting black folks out there in a positive light. They're very careful about how they project black people and the images that they put forth. But a lot of this brain rot reality television, we need to come together as a collective and just stop supporting some of these things. I cannot
Exactly.
understand for the life of me why the hell reality TV is so popular. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Like, yeah, some of the stuff is funny, but at the end of the day, everything that looked good for you ain't good for you. This is why
Exactly.
this is why Jewish people are so hard on people, talking about them and portraying them in a certain light. Sometimes some people get a little over the top with it, like Dave Chappelle said, you can't say the Jews sometimes, without there being some type of backlash. I think that's a bit much, but I understand, the reason why they're hypersensitive to certain things. We should be too. You know what I mean? And that doesn't exclude them when they're displaying anti-black racism. They should be called out too. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Any and everybody, who has been, who they tried to destroy, where there was some type of genocide against these people, there was always a media campaign first. You understand? And we need to realize that because that's going on with us now. They go out of their way to demonize black people in the media, to show black people, as these boogeymen. I think there's another R. Kelly documentary coming out. I mean, dude, is like four of them, right?
Mhm.
Now, not this is not protecting or defending R. Kelly, but it's just overkill at this point.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not going to protect or defend R. Kelly for what he did, but R. Kelly, they're trying, they're capitalizing off the image of the black man as the scary, rapey, pervert, or whatever the case may be. And overwhelmingly, most people who commit sexual crimes are white. That is a fact. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like the way they pervert the news. It's like Malcolm said, they'll have you rooting for the person who's being who's rooting against the person who's being victimized. You understand what I'm saying? And rooting for the person who did the victimizing. That's how the
Mhm.
news will have you if you're not careful. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You're rooting for the villain because the news is telling you this distorted, perverted version of what went on. And we buy it. We buy it hook, line, and sinker. We buy it with the way that we're portrayed in video and music videos. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about, what a cesspool they've made of hip hop. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the day, with the imagery and the way they're putting the women out there and even the guys, all the rap artists, the most successful rap artists, not even drug dealers no more. They're drug users. They're junkies. And we're promoting it. And yeah, 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 dude, really? This is what we doing? And
Mhm.
sisters back in the days, I'm talking about not even 20 years ago, were banging on the way that they're being portrayed in the music videos. I think Spelman, they had a whole boycott.
Yeah,
They organized whatever
yeah,
the case may
that,
be.
that was
We're
big back
that
then.
you're disrespecting black women, da 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 da. And now you can't say something about someone who supports thought culture without a bunch of women coming for you.
Yeah.
Y'all used to say these things. What happened?
Yeah.
You feel me? So we have this really weird um mental positioning where okay, we're just going to support bottom feeding now in our own culture. We don't realize that that's to our detriment because like you said, the white supremacist media will take that, you know, I remember when I was on a thread, because we monitor some of these white supremacist chat rooms, right? I was on a
Mhm.
thread and they were talking about Breonna Taylor, and her murder.
Mhm.
And some suspected white supremacist was in there, said something about um she should have been somewhere twerking, and
Mhm.
she should have been somewhere twerking and she would have been okay. And it's like, wow, that's where your mind went. We're talking about a black woman who was unjustly murdered, and these people, their mind go black woman twerk, black woman twerking. Like that's all black women have to offer. If she would have been somewhere twerking, that would have never happened to her. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when you have the power structure, these are the people who are in power thinking of us in that light. You
Yeah.
understand? It's extraordinarily dangerous, and we gotta really, really watch that. Go ahead, man. I'm
Definitely.
sorry.
But
I'll let my.
the other side of that coin is also it's not just enough for the content that we participate in, but we also have to really stress the importance, the critical, vital, essential nature of ownership. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, you
Mm,
need to be able to not only own your image and control your image, but you can only do that if you have the means by which you can put yourself out there. Um,
mm,
we the only reason why we can even have Skip Baseless be as effective as he is because there is a media apparatus out there that we don't own, that we don't control outside of our viewership, that is
right,
able to employ him, and they're able to employ hand chosen black figureheads or representatives who are supposed to both speak for us and speak to us. So we don't understand how a lot of these things work. A lot of times we just sit back and just think that, oh, this is a talk show with people. We don't really stop to think about, well, why is this person on this network? Why is that person here? What is this person's qualifications? Yeah, they may be an ex-player, or yeah, this person might be a journalist. They might have been doing this for 10 years, 15 years. But what really makes them any more qualified than anybody else to have the spot?
Right.
A lot of times it comes down to what they are willing to do and what they're willing to say. These people do not spend, and if you ever checked out some of these pundits on these shows, like your Stephen A's, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
these guys don't get paid any small money. They don't even get paid any of this local news anchor money. Working for
Right.
ESPN, Disney, these people
Yeah.
making bank.
You getting papered up.
Are Now they're not making Hollywood blockbuster money. They're not out there making the Rock's figures or making Leonardo DiCaprio numbers. But they definitely on the
Yeah.
upper end of some six, in some cases seven figures
Yeah.
annual.
Yeah.
They're playing. They're
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
good paper. And so you
Mm-hmm.
have to question, well, dang, so you mean just working for a newspaper and covering sports for this long is what got you this? Nah, they're paying
Mm-hmm.
for a specific result.
Right.
So when you hear
Right.
so there's a reason, and I'm not saying just to go. I don't want to harp on this one incident, but there's a reason why they feel comfortable putting a Shannon Sharp in a situation where you basically have a white man doing his best plantation overseer impression on him, cussing out, disrespecting to his face with barely. What's the distance between that table on either side? Like what,
About
3 feet
6 feet,
maybe?
six,
6 feet.
8 feet, something like that. Yeah.
Uh, the average person is not too big, but when you're a former defensive Pro Bowl level NFL player who's still in good shape,
Yeah.
uh, it ain't nothing to clear that in lickety split when you're probably motivated. So
Yeah.
there's a reason you feel comfortable to have Shane on the other side of that table and have Skip getting so brolic out the mouth and disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
You can see this man is pissed off. He's livid. You see him taking his glasses off. We know what that means when people start
Yeah.
taking and removing items of clothing and jewelry. We know what that means. And you
Right.
can just be comfortable knowing you wouldn't last 5 seconds in touch with this man saying, "Put your glasses back on," stern as can
Yeah.
be,
He was real
and all
sassy
that
with
man,
it too. You seen it?
and all that man. Woo!
He was real
You would have
sassy.
thought
He
buddy
was
put a
kind of
cheat code.
moist.
You thought he put a cheat code in, and all Shane
Yeah.
do is just curl his lips up. Can't talk to me though. Wait. And he just had no choice but to take it.
Right.
So there's a reason why they feel comfortable hiring these people to do these things. But that's because they have a network, they have these resources in place where they can control the outcome. They have predictable outcomes.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Even when you have these allegedly black rappers and artists, musicians, directors, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it might look all black, but you got to ask the question, okay, where's the funding for this coming from?
Right. Right.
Because it's just like the jukebox, whoever pays the piper controls the tune.
Right.
So it's easy to go and see that when black people had the run of things, when hip hop was coming from the streets, when it was being controlled by the DJs, when the artists and the DJs were the source of the music, everything had to come from this. We saw how positive and uplifting and how spiritual and how upright this was.
Right.
And as soon as non-black people found a way to come in and cut them out,
Mm-hmm.
well, we control the distribution. If you want your sound to go out there to be heard by others, you got to go through us. We see how soon as that happened, that's when that's when we can see. We can literally check and start
Right.
noticing the decline in the quality and the competency of the music coming out now. So even if it's
Real
all
talk.
black people, if the money is coming from elsewhere, they still control you. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go ahead and put this white person there. They can literally just put two black people here, paying both of them behind the tables, and all anyone can do is say, "We is our own worst enemy. We the and he's just background. Who me? No, I'm just here at this table.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good argument. You guys have fun. Meanwhile, he's running the next check for the next person to come on in. So when we
Real
have
talk.
our own organizations, our own media apparatuses, we have our own ability to go ahead and put out the content that we know is essential for us. We can get our own predictable outcomes. We don't have to worry about this kind of nonsense. So we have to have people who are not willing to bow and kiss the knee. That's important also. But at the same time, we have to have the ability to counteract this stuff and to put our own version out there to, at least if nothing else, keep balance. The main issue right now is we don't have balance. That's the
Right.
problem.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
See, I don't
So
begrudge nobody for putting out, something a little raunchy, whatever the case may be, as long as there's something that some type of energy that counters that. That makes sense because some of us are a little raunchy. Okay, cool. But when you start, okay, everything is raunchy, everything is raunchy, and you just keep going. It's raunchy, it's ratchet, it's disrespectful. Now we're to the point where the culture is raunchy and ratchet and disrespectful, and that's just
And that's
first of
an
all, it's
issue.
inaccurate. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because we got plenty of black folks out here. There's a whole audience that's not being spoken to because all this ratchet brain rot is out here, in the stratosphere, man. Like we really, really got to push back hard against that. And my bad, you was gonna say something, brother.
No, no, no. I was just agreeing with what you guys are saying,
Mm-hmm.
which pretty much lead us to our next topic, where you talk about the ratchet and raunchiness and just the facade of everybody trying to live their lives to to mount up to the next person, and
Mm.
that causes a rift between men and women. And one of the which is our main topic today. This is our question of the day we're going to go into. And
Bet.
the question of the day is,
Let's get it.
what is the significant amount of money, budget wise, that you think should be suffice enough for a standard wedding?
Hmm.
So this woman said, no, sir, 15,000 is not enough money for a wedding budget. And it
Mm-hmm.
had 9,000, almost 10,000 shares. So this went viral because people were up in arms about it was going back and forth. So some
Mm-hmm.
people said 15 was not enough, and a lot of people said 15 was more than enough. So
Yeah.
we want to ask our people today. This
Woo!
is our question of the day. What is the sufficient amount of money, budget wise, that you think should be for a standard wedding?
Hmm.
Any of y'all fellas want to? I'm gonna go to you,
Hmm.
Major, last, because you about to get married. So I know you already know what your budget is. But
Yeah.
Bobby, what's your budget that you think is sufficient enough for a standard wedding? Do you think 15,000 is too little, or is that more than enough?
Oh, she's right. Didn't you hear? The budget should be at least start 250K. What you talking about? 50,000? Oh, that's
Oh, you should.
poverty. Oh my God.
Oh
Oh, you
Next
man.
talking
thing you
about
know, you,
this?
you want to
You
get
talking about
away.
this lady?
Oh, she's a broke
Oh,
man because he don't want
yeah,
to pay 250K for a wedding. Oh man.
yeah,
Oh man.
Yeah, that
Oh
yeah.
went
man.
viral too. That was
You
a
ain't
reality
showed out a
show.
quarter.
Hold up.
um, it's just crazy, and I think it's funny how. I'm not trying to be politically correct. I'm just trying to get this out the best way I can. Well, you know what?
Yeah,
I'll take that for later on. Let me. I'll just say this.
Mm.
yeah.
Too often, I have seen this point being stressed, but too often, the emphasis is on the amount of money spent and not on the quality of the actual marriage itself. Now,
Mm,
by no means am I
Mm.
suggesting that the answer to all our wedding woes is to go out there and get married at a courthouse for 100, 150, $200, whatever it costs, because of the idea that, we want to make sure that there's greater emphasis on the marriage itself and not the wedding, or
mm,
because, well, most marriages end in such and such time anyway, so who wants to spend all that money on that? I'm not suggesting that because there's one thing I do not condone. It is operating in fear. Anytime you're operating in fear, you're operating in trauma, you are almost guaranteeing that you're going to get that back. You're investing that currency in your bank account. Rest and trust and believe when you go to make that withdrawal from your bank account, you're going to get all that right back. So if you're having those doubts and thoughts in your mind in the first place that, you know what, well, we might get divorced, we don't want to spend all this money, that's the wrong reason to begin with. You should not be hesitant about spending more than $15,000 or $250,000, whatever the amount is. You should not be hesitating because you're in fear that the marriage is not going to last. That might actually be a sign that you need to sit back and really reconsider, is this the person that I want to be with? Does this make sense? Have I crossed all my T's? Have I dotted all my I's? Because that thought that we could end should not be in your mind if you've done your due diligence and you're confident in your selection. So that's first
Mm,
off.
Mm.
yeah.
Second off, what you choose to spend for your wedding is entirely up to you. That should be based off of where you currently are, what you are willing to do in order to reach that budget if it's up there, and then ultimately, are you, the two people who are getting married, are you satisfied? What your
Mm,
parents think about your wedding budget doesn't matter because they're not the ones getting married. What your friends and your coworkers, what your neighbors, what all these other people think about it is none of their damn business because I can guarantee you, when y'all fussing and fighting, you're not gonna come sleep in their bed.
Right.
I
Right.
can guarantee you kick out on the sofa, they're gonna say, "Hey man, I said you can come over for the day, bro. Well, you need to work that out and go back home." In other
Not even
words,
today.
they don't have a home for you. Your
mm,
work is with them.
Right.
So the only two people whose opinion is worth a diggity damn about this is you two.
Mm.
mm,
So assuming that you two are adults that you can come together and discuss, you can look at your budget, you're able to think about what makes sense because the marriage doesn't stop and end with the wedding. There's still life to live after this. You need to make sure that you're able to achieve your other goals as a family, as a couple going forward.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure if you got to go into debt that you got to work off for several years because you just had to have this flash wedding, I'm sure that's going to be an issue. These are things you need to talk about for yourself. I've seen
Right.
some
mm,
people say that they spent $8,000 for a wedding. I've seen a number of people say that they just went to the Justice of the Peace or whatever and to get their wedding. I've seen some people say they eloped. I know one
Right.
brother who said that they literally eloped. They got like a cheap little wedding in some little chapel somewhere, and then they went and they dropped 10 grand on the honeymoon elsewhere.
Okay.
mm,
Do what makes sense for you. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What do you want?
Right.
Sometimes you find out what you actually want is a whole lot less because you're busy planning for everybody else.
Real talk.
mm.
Real
Do what
talk.
makes sense. That's my answer. The budget. So is $15,000 enough? It's plenty to the right people. It's not enough to the right people, and it's way too much for the right people.
Very well stated. Very well stated. Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay.
That's all I got.
I
That's
just
right.
15 to me, um, I think for a standard wedding, I think that you can get married for 15 if you really want to get married for 15. I don't I don't see it as a big thing. I mean, I see people, right? Okay, if you want a certain wedding, a standard wedding is a standard wedding. I say luxurious wedding, right? But a
Right.
standard wedding, to me, I feel like you can do it with under 15,000. Um, you have some of your closest people that's not everybody you should invite to your wedding because most people want to just come for
Mm.
food and most people come to just basically be a witness to say that they were there to watch your whole shit tear down. They just that
Yeah.
nosy and that deviant. They want to
Yeah.
share their negative energy in your space. So
Wait,
everybody
so
coming to your
Ed,
wedding
some
ain't.
people are going to weddings and saying they just want to watch them fail. That they want to go ahead and take bets and see how long the marriage is going to last. Are you saying that people are
Yeah.
going to weddings for that?
Mm.
No.
Mm.
Yeah, you have some people that do that. They go to weddings for the wrong reasons. They're not there to support you. They're there to see you fail. They want to be a part of your failure. What they feel is going to be your failure. So all your wedding energy is not going to be there in favor for you. There are people there that want to wish that this wedding is last a day or two, much less forever. So to narrow down the people that you have, you can do that. The food, you have great black businesses that have great food that will cater your event. Or if they don't cater, you could buy the food cheap and have somebody else cater the event. But even with black businesses, a lot of them they just want the business. They'll give you the discount because they're getting the exposure on a major level. Maybe they never done it before, so they'll be like, hey, you order this amount of food, I can knock off 50 or $100 or whatever the case may be, and it's a win-win situation for you and the black business owner. There's creative ways to do
Right.
things if you want to get stuff done, But if you are contingent and you're holding up a wedding based on financial means, then that's why a lot of things don't occur in your favor. And people don't understand. They always say men are cheap or men don't propose. A lot of men don't propose because they feel the pressure of financing these weddings. Remember,
Right.
we are Gen Z and above were in a time where the father was the one who sponsored the wedding. So whatever wedding you wanted, the father was very financially endowed to finance the whole wedding. It wasn't a problem. Nowadays, we don't have that same financial structure when it comes down to a family and the wedding plans. A lot of times it's basically the husband and sometimes the wife income together to fund
Yeah.
the wedding. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little difficult now than it was back then. And I think as the times change, you have to alter it based on who you're dealing with and who you're in a relationship with. Because to be honest with you, when you compare from the 1920s, even going back to slavery days where our ancestors were getting married during slavery, while they were in shackles, they were getting married. And they didn't spend any money to do that, right? And as they gone down from years to years, it wasn't nothing luxurious about black people getting married like that. The luxury part came into the lifestyle, not the marriage itself. Black people were just getting married to get married. And now it seems like marriage has become the new version of what they had, the teen 16, where they had all these
Sweet
celebrity
16.
teenagers. You remember when they
Oh,
were doing the
my Sweet
birthdays?
16,
Prom.
Yeah, like they were doing all the
my
birthdays and
Super
stuff
Sweet
like
16.
that.
Yeah,
So every teen, then when their birthday came up as celebrity teen, they just wanted to do it to be bigger and better than the next teen. They wanted to say, "Hey, I was my joint was bigger than Bow Wow's," or they wanted to
Right.
be that type of stuff. So it became competition on other people versus just having and celebrating your birthday as for yourself. Everybody wants to be bigger than the other person. And as we've seen over the years, it has transitioned into weddings, it's transitioned into graduations. Now you start seeing people showing up with crocodiles and graduation parties, niggas jumping off of helicopters and shit like that,
Camels.
and
Yeah.
camels and
Yeah.
ostrich and rare fucking animals. Like it's like everybody wants to be better than the next person, and those budgets are going to increase. And when it increases, somebody else is going to want to do bigger and better than that. And then this becomes another part where we fall victim. It collapses our society because when we do that, we're competing against each other and our budgets are going higher and higher. There's
Yeah.
people that will never ever reach that peak of level of financial level to do the type of wedding or graduation that other somebody else did, and now that becomes depressing to them. That makes them depressed that the partner that they have to not fulfill the type of wedding or whatever they want, or their parent not fulfilling that type of elaborate type of graduation ceremony or whatever they want to do. So now you're envious to your parents, you're envious to your mate, and now you have created such a dark space that will end up in a realms that is no longer a happy space, but now is a space where it can go all the way left to somebody being in jail, whether they're robbing somebody or killing somebody just to live that luxury lifestyle or that image that they try to project. And I think it's very important
Mm.
that when we have these conversations, like Bobby Drake said, you want to channel it and funnel it towards you and your mate. Do what's best for you. Don't do what's best for the outsiders or for the spectators. Do what's best for you because at the end of the day, you can go and break the bank and do this elaborate wedding, and then you come back home and you guys are eating ramen noodles for another 2 3 months till you get the
Right.
money back, and that
Right.
doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be smart about everything you do, and I think that when I showed you guys the clip of the guy and the woman. I don't know if they're a reality show couple or whatever the case may be, but they went viral. And she was saying, "Well, he's my man broke because he don't want to spend 250,000 on a wedding." And he clearly said, "Look, I can spend 250,000. I'm pretty sure he has the money to do it, but he says I'm not going to spend 250,000 when I could spend even half of that or way less than half of that, and I can invest the other half in our family. I can invest it in stocks. I can invest in it in company or your entrepreneurship, whatever, versus putting all of that into just a wedding." And that
Yeah.
I thought was I thought it was a very strong point he made, but a woman, and when you look at her, she's not the ideal woman that you would put on magazines and the whole world will go crazy about. She's, this average woman, and at that you're making these strong demands of 250K. So when you look at her, you look at the demeanor, you're looking at how she's saying things, you're looking at the way she's talking to her man, she is not doing none of this for nobody else but the outsiders. She
Right.
wants to make the other women so damn jealous with that money. And if he
Right.
doesn't do that, he's broke because she don't want no regular wedding where other women are going to look at her and say, "Damn, you had a po ass wedding." She wants to be the one to say, "I got this big ass wedding, have bitches, and what? And I got the
Yeah.
ring." And
There
that's
you
what it
go.
is a competition between
Yep.
sisterhoods. And I think it has to end in competition. I think one of the detrimental parts of sisterhood is the competition. And I've been in spaces, in empowerment spaces with women. And you would think that in the empowerment spaces, the way they talk about empowerment within women, that they're having these great conversations and they're networking and all of that. And let me tell you, some of it is very condescending. They're very condescending. They talk bad about each other, and they're
Woo.
hoping that the downfall of each other. And we
Woo.
even seen a glimpse of that with Stormy when Stormy pointed at her friend who supported her, who spent a lot of money to get into her retreats, and she looks
Right.
at her food and said, "You got a low energy plate, and you're
Yeah.
doing this
Low
on
vib-
national TV."
no, no,
Low
low
vibration.
vibrational.
Low
Yeah, low
vibration plate.
vibration, right? Low
We got to
vibration
respect the
plate.
terminology.
Woo.
Low
You
vibrational.
do this, you do this on national TV, and now you made this poor woman go viral, talking down to her, saying
Mm-hmm.
that she's not eating right. And this is the same woman that got into it with her children, who I'm going to tell you, she is Caribbean descent. If I'm not mistaken, I think Stormy. Don't quote me on it, but I believe she's Jamaican. And she I remember seeing YouTube videos, and I'm surely not mistaken, that she was blowing weed. She was smoking weed. And if you want to be real nitpicking, if somebody want to be really nitpicking about Stormy, weed is not supposed to be taken in through smoking. If we really want, your lungs weren't made for smoking in any form or fashion. Even
Mm.
though they say weed is good for you, the best form of weed is in the liquid form. It's
Mm.
not a smoking form. And then on top of that, you're not getting the real high grade weed, what we say from the Caribbean. You're getting
Right.
something that is basically chemically and hybrid organized and made up. So this is man-made weed with chemicals in it. So
Right.
you're destroying your body more smoking that weed than she is eating her quote unquote low vibration food. So I just want people to understand that when we look at things, we have to do it in a form of construct, in a form of unity, in a form of empowerment. Every move you make has to be in a chess-like element. This is why
Yeah.
I always say, if you don't know how to play chess, you're gonna lose in the game of life. One thing, shout out to my boy Merv, one of my he's my barber. He's also was the former barber of, and he might still be the barber of Lil Wayne, but he cuts
Mm.
celebrities up. And
Yeah.
Lil Wayne was his main artist that he used to cut up. And
Mm.
any child, he keeps a chessboard in his barbershop, and any child that comes in there, he teaches them how to play chess. And I
Right.
think it's so dope because once you
Salute.
understand the art of chess, and once you understand how chess is played, you will definitely understand and conquer the game of life, because in chess, the main goal is to be 4 or 5 moves ahead of your opponent. So if you're able to think 4 or 5 moves of where they might go and how they might react, you can set them up to yell checkmate. And that's how
Yeah.
you conquer society. You cannot go around systemic racism. Systemic racism is a global system that has been constructed for years. But in a chess like mind frame, you can see the traps and you can see what's set up for you to fail, and you can operate around that and be successful, just
Real
like a
talk.
lot of us are doing. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So understand that concept and understand where it is. And when it comes to something like that, that's my take on it. Do what's best for your household, and then
No
you'll
doubt.
see how successful you are in the long
Real talk. Real talk, man. And to piggyback on that, like you said, I totally agree on um, the chess comment. At the end of the day, I was beating adults at chess when I was 5, literally. You know what I
run.
mean? My stepfather taught me, and I played him like 3 games, and he never beat me from that day, and I just kept going. But I've used some of those same techniques in life. Real talk. You know what I mean? It really, really, really prepares you. Like you said, you want to be 5. Sometimes I'm 8 moves ahead. You know what I'm saying? I've already planned what I'm gonna do. I already planned what you're gonna do, and I'm
Mm,
moving in that regard. But to answer this question, man, this one was crazy. If I'm gonna be real, this particular post, I don't understand why it got so many retweets and reposts. I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and my thing is this. I think that, if this sister feels that way, okay, that's fine. That's her. You understand? I think people were particularly annoyed by it
mm,
because number one, two, and three, it's verifiably false. Of course, you can have a wedding, a decent wedding, a great wedding for less than $15,000. That's provable. You understand what I'm saying? Like I know people who are multimillionaires that spent less than $10,000 on their wedding and have beautiful weddings. So it's nonsense at the end of the day. That was the first thing that's kind of annoying about it. Since it's not particularly important, but since everybody's blowing it up to talk about it, okay, let's take it and just deconstruct it and try to make sense of it. It's false. It's verifiably false. Sure, $15,000 is enough for a decent wedding. Um, However, I think even before we get into the mechanics of the 15K for the wedding, we got to look at the type of people that we have in our spaces and what they post and what the intentions behind what they post are. You understand where I'm coming from?
mm,
I don't particularly
Yeah.
see anything beneficial that's going to come out of that post as far as male and female relationships. A lot of people were crazy triggered behind this damn post. And I'm sitting up there trying to figure out, okay, from the men's point of view, why are you triggered? And particularly from the women's point of view, why are you triggered? We have another weird space. We need to do a whole show called Weird Spaces. We have another
mm,
weird space where anytime men as a group express a particular thought, women that's antithetical to what the women are thinking. Women take offense to the men's thought. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like, okay, you guys, you don't agree with this point, so therefore you a bunch of broke niggas. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like, really? Is that what we are? You know what I'm saying? Like
mm,
that doesn't make any sense. Again, I know a person personally, a multimillionaire. I know another couple people who are multi-thousandaires, well off, spent less than $10,000 on their weddings, and their weddings were nice because you don't agree. You know, doesn't mean that you're a bunch of broke niggas. And I think that a lot of the men, the reason why they were so triggered was because they kind of saw that coming. That
mm,
money shaming is a common tactic that women use to put men down.
Oh,
And I mean, I just see it all the time. Oh, you, like the other woman said, oh, you won't spend $250,000 on a wedding for me, so you're broke. She
Mm.
put that out publicly to humiliate this man. I mean, real talk, you humiliated yourself. You sound like a dumbass. Real talk. What are you
Mm-hmm.
talking about? People, like I said, there are people in our groups, in our spaces, or whatever. You gotta understand what the motive is for them putting out some of this bullshit. Because
Yeah.
that's what that post really was. It was just kind of silly. I would have kind of just shrugged it off and scrolled past it had everybody not been talking about it, right? If
Yeah.
if that sister feels that $15,000 is not enough for a wedding for her, that's fine. But the fact that she was
Yeah.
stating it as fact, I think kind of irked the hell out of a lot of people. And
Yeah.
additionally, brothers was out there just kind of because a lot of times people like that they'll post something like that just to get the gender war conversation started.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
love the
Oh,
the 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 slanging of the slime. They love it. They love to
Mm.
hear, the men start banging on the women start banging on the men, and everybody just kind of goes at each other. Then they sit back and laugh and go back to their miserable, lonely lives because that's what it is. You
hmm,
understand where I'm coming from? So, we got to be careful about the intentions behind some of the stuff that people post. And it's like, okay, you know, I can think of a million and one things to do with $15,000 that are better than a wedding. If I'm being
Yeah.
totally honest, men as a group, weddings don't, that's really not anything that's particularly important to us. It's important to us because we love our women and we know that it's important to them. You understand?
Mm.
And at the end of the day, we're going to look at it from a perspective of, okay, yeah, 15K is a lot to spend on a wedding, but if we're doing home improvement projects, 15K might not be enough to redo the kitchen or redo the garage. We resell the house and we make a grip because we put money into it. You know what I mean? So, I think that a lot of I did hear from one sister in particular. I want to make sure I put this out there that she says that a lot of the men were kind of banging on this woman, like, "Oh, you hoe, you bitch, you this, you that, whatever, whatever," and saying disparaging things about her because she made this post, and I don't agree with that.
Mm.
That's something that we don't need to be doing. I think that we can engage with the women in a more respectable way and just kind of speak to the argument as opposed to attacking the person. Speak to the argument that they're making, and the strength of that argument or lack thereof. I think that's a much better way of um engaging in discourse.
Mm.
And by the way, the same goes for the sisters. You because I see all of this. Oh, you talking to the women so bad. Oh, look how you talk to the women, but nobody says anything about how the women talk to the men.
Mm.
And that needs to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody's taking you seriously if your criticism is so biased. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You have to be out there. If you're gonna say it with your chest when the men do it to the women, and I agree, we shouldn't be talking to sisters like that. But on the flip side, you need to have the same energy. You understand what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if we're trying to come together and make the situation better, shouldn't both sides be listening to each other's arguments? And okay, I can see where you're coming from, sister. All right, cool. Yeah, I might put a little more in, more in the game. Maybe we can agree 10 or 12, but maybe 15 is a little much, or whatever the case may be. It should not turn into an all-out gender war. Oh, I'm flicking dirt on you, you flicking dirt back on me. That's ridiculous. That's nonsense. That's low frequency BS. At the end of the day, we need to really, really stop that. I didn't
Exactly.
even comment as much as I would have liked to
Mm.
because the ignorance was just it was just oozing with ignorance. You know what I'm like? What the hell? Like, this is what we're talking about? And my final point, you know, as a community, and I said this on one of the threads. There was many of those threads with that same post, but on one of the threads, I was like, I'm much more concerned with the fact that 1 in 3 Black women will ever be married. That's what
Mm.
I'm concerned with. Okay. I'm much more concerned with that. This is a statistical fact. You're up here talking about, oh, $15,000 is too much for a wedding when most of you will never marry.
Mm.
And that has to do with the fact that we're not getting along. And unfortunately, a lot of brothers are not finding value in you and proposing. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That's a much more intelligent argument. And it comes from a place of wanting to correct what's wrong so that we can move forward, as opposed to arguing about something so petty.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. It really irked, that post really irked the hell out of me, because it's like, bro, we have so far to go. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? This is not what we should be spending time on. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it. Oh, I'm sorry. One more point.
Yeah.
I feel like that post is yet again an example of people promoting hyper materialism to black women. I don't
Mm.
like that. That doesn't move us into a better space. You know, like you said, a lot of brothers, they scared to propose because they're thinking about the financial pressure that comes after the proposal and the cost of the wedding. They may want to propose, but it shouldn't be all that. It shouldn't take all that. A lot of people, they just want the goddamn ring. They just want the
Exactly.
ring ceremony. They want to be the it chick for a couple hours. They want to be popular with their stupid friends. Bruh,
Mm-hmm.
the marriage is a lot more important than the wedding, or getting married at all is a lot more
Exactly.
important than some damn ceremony. We need to get our minds right and have better prioritization, because at the end of the day, that whole discussion is just nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I land my plane there. It irked me. It really, you know what I'm saying? Just the level of seriousness people are talking about this dumb shit with. Really?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So I definitely want to put this while I talk about this real quick. I just want to push this
Yeah.
up real quick for our
Oh.
audience.
Mm.
All right. So in the U.S. marriage rates have been on the decline since the latter half of the 20th century, and both men and women are marrying at a later age. But the decline
Right.
and delay are even more drastic among Black adults. The median age at first marriage has risen for both men and women. In the 1970s, the median age at first marriage was 23.2 years for men and
Mm.
20.8 years for women. 50 years later, those figures climbed to 30.5
Mm.
for men and 28.1 years for women, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
Although there have been a drastic change in marriage patterns for all races and Hispanic origin groups, differences have been especially pronounced for non-Hispanic Black adults. Throughout the story, Black is used interchangeably with non-Hispanic Black. For all groups, the percentage of never married men in the 1970s has been 28% compared to 22% of women. By
Mm.
2020, these figures rose to 35.8 and 30% respectively. However, in the 1970s, 35.6 of Black men and 27.7 of Black women were never married. But by 2020, these percentages have jumped to 51% for Black men and 47% for Black women, which is what you speak of, Major. And while the
Mm-hmm.
percentage of all adults who have never been married increased by 7.6% points for men and 7.9% points for women, the corresponding change for Black adults was more than double that, and
Mm.
15.8% for men and 19.8% for women. Similarly, the median age at first marriage for Black adults increased more than drastically and it did for the overall population. So,
Right.
with that being said, and you guys, I put this map up so you guys could see the percentages of married Black adults from 2005 to 2009. All in the purple area is the significantly high percentage of Black couples.
Right.
Um, in the white states, the states that have no color, there's no difference. That means it's equal. And significantly lower is in the green states. So all the green states
Mm.
that you see colored in green have significantly low marriage rates between Black men and women. And you guys could see California and is highlighted in green for significantly lower. And we all know that California is a state that is heavily populated with the LGBTQIA family. So you already know the family structure between black men and women are going to
Mm,
be lower in that state. We also see in New York as well.
mm,
But as you can see, the overall, this is what it looks like. We have to build back our black family. And like I said, this is from the rate of 2005 to 2009, which I'm pretty sure the colors on this map have changed as
right.
well.
No doubt.
So
No doubt. Good
that's what I
information.
have for you guys today.
Mm,
It was a wonderful show, man, and I know, Major taking that major leap next week, Sunday. So definitely congrats to that. We'll be at the wedding.
yeah.
So that I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be a great, great blessing to be part of something so iconic and so much needed for our community and definitely much needed for your family.
It's appreciated,
And
brother.
you know, I don't know what to say, man. Next week is gonna be an interesting week, right? It's
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be
gonna be
crazy.
crazy.
I can't
Definitely gonna
wait,
be crazy.
man. I can't wait.
I,
Really at the end of the day, because this woman is just such an amazing woman. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I know we're going to have an amazing family. And what's funny? After I proposed, it kind of set off a chain reaction, and other people around us started proposing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
We noticed that, real
right.
talk. Other people around us
Right.
started proposing and getting into more serious relationships and so forth. And it was beautiful, man. And let me just put this out there, man. Just broadly, you know, I just want to say this for the culture. This is a whole other show. But as far as I'm concerned, and I feel like as far as many more of us should be concerned,
Yeah.
if she's good enough to get pregnant, she's good enough to marry.
Oh yeah,
That's how
definitely.
I feel. I'm gonna say it with
Definitely.
my chest, bro. You know what I'm
Rewind.
saying?
Run that
I'm
back. Yeah, one more
I,
time
I'm
for
gonna
the
say it one
people at
more
home.
time. I get pushback from. It's two things that I get pushback from brothers for. Everything else is great, but these two things, I'm gonna say the other thing too. But for this show,
Mhm.
if she's good enough to get pregnant, she's good enough to marry. Okay,
Exactly.
y'all
Hundred
brothers
percent.
out there, dealing with these women, and knocking them up, and okay, ho, you got this baby mama here, baby mama there, here, baby mama there, baby mama everywhere, baby mama, bruh,
Yes.
it that ain't it.
That ain't
At
it.
the end of the day, we
That ain't it.
need strong black nuclear families.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it is. Mother, father, son, daughter, all in the same house, okay, with a focus on the family unit as a whole. We need to get back to that.
Yeah.
Same, and it applies to sisters as well. Allowing yourself back in the day. My mom told me a game. My mom gives me so much game. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And one of the things she was telling me, you know, yeah, back in the day, of course, it was looked down upon. If you're pregnant and you're not married. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It was very much looked down upon. You know what I mean? And there was a reason for that. You know,
Yeah.
um, Someone who is serious enough about you to impregnate you should be serious enough about you to make a lifelong commitment to you.
Mm.
And when you don't require that, when you don't make that a requirement, you're devaluing yourself. That's the long and short of it. I don't give a shit what these feminists, these pretend feminists tell you. I'm telling you what it is. Because at the
Mm.
end of the day, that feminist bullshit ain't for our community anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Black men and black women need to be together. We need to prioritize one another. That's it at the end
Definitely.
of the day. Nothing should come before your man or your woman. And
Definitely.
that means nothing comes before your family because you got kids together, so forth and so on, and y'all move as a unit. We
Mm.
need to get back to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's gotten ridiculous at this point. And I
Exactly.
understand some things happen. I get it, but we're moving this way as a culture now. This is not an accident here, accident there. This is just being
Right.
irresponsible. It's just being irresponsible at the end of
Accountability.
the day. You know what I'm saying?
Accountability.
And we need to get back to that. because
Yeah.
it makes us so much stronger. And I
Yeah.
respect the sisters. I value the sisters. I respect the brothers. I value the brothers, but I see, in some of these discussions, the discourse that we're having, we're not
Mhm.
showing each other that we value each other,
Yes.
and the way that we're jumping out the window, way too quickly and for utterly nonsensical reasons. We need to get away from that and start listening to each other. These sisters, some of them, I know sisters personally that when I first met them, they were, really, really angry in some of these spaces. And it's like, I just kind of talk to them, oh, hey, look, you know what? Why all the, and after a while, they kind of, okay, you know what? You made a point. Now, everybody's not like that. Some people you just can't say. You know what I'm saying? But some people you can kind of reel them in. Look, everybody's not your enemy, sister. Same thing with the brothers. Look, brother, everybody's not your enemy. You know, let's talk to each other a little more in a little more of a civil manner and really try to understand what the other side is making these complaints about, because sisters do have some valid points on things that they criticize about brothers and vice versa. Okay. And the other thing, just real quick before I forget, that men, uh, that we kind of go our separate ways on is when I say I have no tolerance policy for cheating. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of men, we seem to feel like that's something that we're supposed to do. Listen, I'm not shading, people who have some of these poly relationships or whatever the case may be. In some relationships, the women really kind of expect you to cheat and they don't particularly mind. I found this out personally on a personal level. I'm not shading those people, but at the end of the day, it's the deception that does it for me. For the people who are being deceptive about how they move or whatever the case may be, and just kind of putting it out there. Like, if you're going to be with me as a woman, you have to accept my cheating, and I have to cheat because I'm a man, and that's genetically what I'm supposed to do. That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, because I know cats, it's just it's as simple as having discipline. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing, that destroys marriages and destroys the home. A lot of the cheating. And by the way, women always make it a point to talk about men cheating, which is a bad thing. I don't agree with that. But let's also talk about the fact that men and women cheated about the same rate in this current dating and relationship climate. Okay.
Mhm.
So, we're not going to focus all on this one thing over here and ignore this when it's just as bad. Everybody
Mhm.
needs to tighten up. That's it at the end of the day. Long story short, but I
Yep.
don't feel like we're supposed to cheat or be unfaithful or be deceptive or whatever the case may be. And I know plenty of guys who, do have the self-discipline to not do that. So it has been proven that, it's not something that we just have to do. Stop saying that. That's not true. That's not true in any
Mhm.
regard. You know what I'm saying? So that I'll land my plane there, man. Hey, brothers, it's going down, man. When I'm telling you, to you guys here and anybody out there, when you find that right one and you're certain, move on it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because, but do your proper vetting first, because,
Oh yeah.
bro, it's a whole bunch of damn knuckleheads out here that
Oh
ain't
yeah.
worthy.
Yeah.
They ain't worthy
Yes.
and they don't qualify for you. And that's
Exactly.
just people generally, men and women.
Yes.
You got to do your proper vetting and get it right. And when you're sure, do it. Pull the trigger.
Exactly. Well said, man. Well said.
Mm.
We appreciate everybody coming out here at this time and joining us, man. It was a great show again. We're having great shows every week. Like I said, it's going to get bigger and better. The
Yeah.
topics are going to get, man, you're not going to find any of these topics anywhere else. We're bringing statistical levels. So the data is here, everything is here. You're going to hear intellectual and healthy conversation from a group of fellas that want the community to be better than what it is right now. And we're going to do it collectively, one segment, one episode at a time. And we're going to get you into that mindset that you need and we need for our community to strive in a positive way. This is Major's last week. as a single household under the government's eyes. Next week, y'all do everything from there on. Y'all do everything together as a unit, which is a super wonderful thing. I
Yes.
am looking forward myself to getting to that level of that next stage of life. Because you always have stages of life. You have your
Right.
single stages. Well, you have your stages where you grew up with your parents. Then you have your own single stages and your life stages. And then you go into the stages of having a child or you're getting engaged. And then you have your marriage stages. So those stages, in everybody's life, they have
Mhm.
elevated to one of those stages or even all of those stages.
Yeah.
So I have yet to get, but my stage is definitely, that's my next stage is to get to that level. And you guys remember, you have brothers on here that don't have children all over the place. We're not Akon. We don't support the Akon theory.
Real
We're not
talk.
Nick Cannon. We don't have
Hell,
children in
Real
different
talk.
states, in different areas, and we can't be to their special events because
Right.
at the end of the day, as you can have all the money in the world, but the moments, were you there for your child graduating? Were you there for, the special moments of first walk? Most of the times they're not there because they're big heads that have to be everywhere to
Right.
do shows and things to get the bag. So you're not going to be there in your every child's moment, not like a regular day, every guy who comes home to his family and is there for the first talk, who's there for the first words of dada, and
Right.
stuff like that that are so priceless, not only to them but also to their children. So we say that to say, build yourself, lead by example. So build yourself in the structure of what you want to see. Even if you have messed up plenty of times, treat your life like your credit. It's never too late to fix it. So,
There it is.
if you take everything in this time frame right now and get all the information, it's never too late. We have 80-year-old women that's graduating from college. It's
Real
never too
talk.
late to do what you need to do. So on
Hmm.
that realms, I'm gonna let you guys have your final say, and then we're out of here.
Bob.
um, there's no other way to do it but to just do it. A lot of the issues that we have, especially when it comes to things like discipline and how we move, a lot of things come from insecurity. A lot of that also comes from fear and of not knowing. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a
Real
lot
talk.
of unresolved trauma, a lot of unresolved pain and hurt. People just simply run from issues instead of trying to confront them and actually deal with them. But you find that when you stop running, when you actually confront the real issues and put in the work, you actually make an effort to heal and become whole. When you take on the difficult challenges in front of you, you work on getting your discipline down. If you know you're not a disciplined person, you go and work to build up your courage if you're not a courageous person. You go and seek to find motivation to keep your motivation. And when you do these things, what this does is it builds competence and it builds confidence. There's a lot of brothers and a lot of sisters who are afraid to make certain moves. They're afraid of falling in love. They're afraid of getting married. They're afraid of making major moves because they've never done it before. They don't have these success stories. Maybe no one in their family's married. Their parents split up or were never together in the first place. They don't have any good examples. Be the good example.
Hmm.
Ultimately prepare,
Right.
sit at the feet of people who have been there. Of course, nobody's perfect. They have their own issues and everything else, but who is more or less getting the results that you want? Sit down, talk to them. Put that pride to the side.
Right.
Get that ego about the way. It's doing nothing but get in your way anyways. Ain't no space for you to even exist because the ego
There it
hogging all
is.
the damn oxygen in the room. Find out, hey, what steps did you take? How can I get there? Do you have any advice for me?
Mm.
You'd be surprised. There's going to be a lot of people that are willing to share what they know with you. Once you have this information, once you have a bit of a roadmap, you have an idea of what direction to go in. And as you make mistakes, you're going to learn from them. But ultimately, you keep moving forward. And if you do that, you'll build up your confidence. And the more confidence you get, the less fear you have. But
Right.
if you sit
Mhm.
there on your ass in a bubble trying to avoid taking any hits or taking any L's, you might stay safe, but you're going to have a very unfulfilled life. That's not the life that you should want for yourself. Come to Jesus. Comfort is a slow death. Prefer pain. Don't ask for
And
God to lessen your burdens or your struggles. Ask God to give you some bigger shoulders, give you some broader shoulders. You need version 3.0. There's some more
yeah,
licks out there you need to look forward to taking. Do that,
Hmm.
and you're going to find out that you have a better life to leave. You have a better legacy to leave behind, and you're going to have a hell of a story when it's all said and done. Don't be afraid of life. Take life by the
Hmm.
horns. That's all I got to say. We'll check with y'all next time.
all
For
right,
sure, man.
there it is. I
Y'all
already
be
kind of said
easy.
my piece earlier. Go ahead, Ant.
All right, so y'all be easy, y'all be safe, man, and we'll definitely see you guys next week.
Well,
And we got
actually,
some. What is next week for you?
well, I'm getting married next Sunday, so
Yeah, you get married next Sunday. So,
y'all
if
going
you
to the
don't
wedding?
see it, yeah. So we'll see what we have in store for you guys next week. If we can do a I don't know. We'll keep you guys guessing. We'll sit back and figure out what we're gonna have for you next week. But it's the
Mm,
big show for our boy next week, and definitely gonna be in the building with him. So we'll keep you guys abreast, and you guys will be posted with what's going on. All right. So we love y'all.
You're going to see us
Appreciate
on the
y'all.
other side of
Remember,
made this tax bracket change.
yes, yes, definitely tax
no
bracket.
doubt.
Uncle Sam right now got his Birdman fist for him. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, I know, right?
So, so he
New
definitely
times,
gonna
new benefits.
Mm,
we're definitely gonna
mm.
make sure we get all the information to you guys. But remember, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and get this information to the next person because somebody out there, needs to hear this, and it doesn't make sense to keep this information when you could be sharing it. So do that for us, and we got you. All right. So next
Real
week
talk.
we'll see you. Peace
Love y'all to life.
for sure.
On the album, we do things like songs that are a little, what we call sexy. You can see from the title, it's more of a love album.